That's all right. Ask the Dean, episode 66, with my fellow mapped team. Dr. Scott Wright, how are you doing today?
Excelente. I'm doing
Muy,
really well.
muy excelente.
Muy excelente.
That is great. Verinia Granum, our newest advisor extraordinaire. How are you doing, my friend?
Ooh.
You are muted, or I cannot hear you.
I'm sorry about that. I am doing wonderful. Thank you so much.
That is wonderful, wonderful. And Mapped co-founder Rachel Grubbs. How are you?
Hello, I'm excellent.
Excelente. Muy excelente.
Yes.
And for those of you who don't know, I'm Dr. Ryan Gray, co-founder of Mapped, podcast creator extraordinaire. I like extraordinaire. It's just a good word. Anyway, we're here for Ask the Dean. It's our new time slot. We have a new bat channel, new bat time, Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern, going live on the Medical School HQ channel, YouTube channel, the Mapped YouTube channel, and Instagram Live I got going here as well. So if you're watching on Instagram Live, we are taking questions from YouTube. That's where we can pull questions in. So go ask questions over there. So this is your time to shine. For all of you watching, this is your time to ask questions. Dr. Scott Wright, former director of admissions at UT Southwestern, used to run the whole TMDSAS application service. Verinia Granum, also a pre-med expert as the former assistant dean of advising and STEM extraordinaire. Again, I love that word. At Hofstra. Rachel Grubbs has 20 years experience in the MCAT space. And I'm just a lowly doctor here on the call. Right. I've written a few books, but let's get started. If you guys have questions, they're coming fast and furious. So let's go and get started. I was a PCT during summer, but quit due to night shifts being unmanageable in the school year. I just got a job as a clinic intern to get more experience while quitting my PCT job over a summer raise flags. It's a very common concern, right? I quit my job, or I was only there for X number of months, right? The red flag, right, Verinia, is I quit my job and I didn't do anything else.
Right.
I stopped doing everything. I went and hung out in my room and played video games all day long. Right?
Yeah, that's the red flag.
Yeah, they got another job. They're good.
Yeah, that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Easy peasy. All right, let's do easy questions. I like easy questions. Good afternoon, all. Can you describe the timeline for letters of intent and when they are appropriate to send post-interview? Oh, Dr. Scott Wright, students love this question because they think this letter of intent is the holy grail. If I send a letter, oh my gosh, they're going to think I'm the bee's knees and they're going to accept me on the spot.
Right. No.
Right? Former director of admissions, when you got a letter of intent for your specific school, right? You can only speak to your program. What did you do with those letters of intent?
Well, frankly, they went into the big circular file,
AKA the trash can.
Right. They don't mean anything. Your intent is illustrated by your application.
Yep.
And so I don't think it's ever, it's not I wouldn't deem it inappropriate to send, but it just doesn't mean anything. And so I think it's a waste of time. Later in the process, if you're in the waiting list or the alternate pool or whatever, then potentially I would say, you could send a letter at that point and say, yeah, if you make me an offer, I'll be there, or, something to that effect. But
you make me an offer I can't refuse.
Yeah, exactly. But, in terms of, sending something post-interview, I just don't think it has any meaning to admissions committees.
Yeah. And we have to put an asterisk on that, right? Because you were director of admissions pre-new traffic rules, which went into effect a couple of years ago.
That's correct.
And for all of you, educate yourself, go Google AAMC traffic rules. And what you'll find is that a couple of years ago, I think in 2019, the AAMC implemented new rules for medical schools that were stricter, and schools initially didn't like it because previously medical schools, when they were looking at the students that they interviewed, they could see, okay, did this student get in somewhere else? Where did they get in? Oh, that school is crappy. They'll come to our school if we accept them. Or, oh, they got into Harvard. They're not going to come to our school if we accept them. Schools could play that game, but now they can't. And so medical schools are much more potentially conservative. Again, every admissions committee is going to be different, but medical schools don't have the visibility that they used to have in terms of where you may have been accepted elsewhere, and they've interviewed you. And so a letter of intent may have a little bit more weight nowadays with the new traffic rules, specifically if you already have an acceptance somewhere else. So it's not coming off as desperation, but you say, hey, university of whatever, I loved my interview day and I really appreciate you taking the time to interview me. But whatever you want to say, I have an acceptance at another school, but you are my top choice for XYZ. And if you accept me, I will come. Right. And that potentially will give them a little bit of security to go, okay, we have a little bit more knowledge about this student. If we accept this student, they will come. Because it's a game, right? Scott, you used to play this game all the time of like, I have 200 seats. I need to accept 230 because I know historically I have a drop off of X number of people, or people that just don't come, or they want to delay a year. And so it's this constant game of, I can't accept too many. I can't accept too little. It's like Goldilocks, right? It's just got to be just right.
Yeah.
And a potential letter with new traffic rules may help later in the cycle.
Yeah, I think so. I think later in the cycle, you're absolutely right, is when it becomes a more advantageous kind of activity for an applicant and for the medical schools as well. Now, having said that, I do want to point out that for those students that are applying to Texas medical schools, Texas schools still still participate in such a way that they know where offers are being placed. They do not have the same traffic rules that the AAMC schools have. And so they do know, based on schools within Texas, where you're holding or where you may have gotten an offer or stuff like that.
Yep.
But I will hasten to add that students make choices among medical schools for various reasons. And so a school that is higher ranked or more prestigious or whatever does not necessarily mean a student's going to go there. There are financial aid implications. There are, I had a student last year who got into a variety of schools, several very high ranked schools, and ended up going to a lower ranked school because they gave him a full scholarship.
Yeah.
And so, there are a lot of different things that students are facing and reasons that they make decisions. And so I would say schools still are in don't always, pay attention to things like that in terms of decisions that they make, or pay attention to what necessarily is in a letter of intent. Because things can change often regarding a situation that the student is in or whatever.
Yep. Love it. So moral of the story, it's not going to hurt you to send it.
Right.
Send it at the right time.
Right.
Send it appropriately. Don't send a letter of intent to every school out there.
Right.
And
if you do, be sure and change the name of the school in each letter.
I'm sure you've never seen that.
Never saw it. Yeah. Oh, Lord. Too funny.
All right. So next question here. How do medical schools view applicants that completed a master's degree online? The master's degree allows students to take courses similar to medical school courses and has a good reputation. Aha.
I would say that, particularly now in the COVID days where everything went online, and I think medical schools are getting the message that online education is not necessarily easier. I think in some ways it's even more difficult. in some situations. And so I think that I just don't think within the current environment that medical schools are going to look down on online education. I think it depends on, what the master's degree is in and on the performance of the student in that master's degree program. But otherwise, I don't think that would be something that I would necessarily think that medical schools are going to look poorly on or anything like that.
Yeah. It's one of the silver linings of COVID, potentially.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to your point, Scott, regarding the difficulty of it, it can be much more difficult, right? Because you're
Yep.
balancing, workload plus maybe you're working full time or you have a family as well. So
Right.
I think that in itself is a skill, right? Time management, managing a full time degree program online, and you have to be very disciplined to do it because oftentimes, you may have an instructor or it may just be a self guided course. So I think for anyone out there who's maybe considering some online graduate work, it's being viewed more positively, as Dr. Wright was just saying.
Yep, agreed.
I spent undergrad pursuing vet med, but as a senior, I did research and was in a leadership role that made me more interested in human med. Have you seen students make this switch or have any advice? See it all the time.
Yep.
Right? It happens all the time. Like, my patients can't talk to me and I want to talk to patients. So I want to go to human med and not be a pediatrician.
Yep. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So it happens all the time, right? It's the story that you tell, right? In your personal statement, this journey that you've been on, the experiences that you've had. Where is a common mistake? I'm assuming a common mistake potentially is leaning all the vet med experience going, well, med is med, and so I'm just going to apply to human medical school without any human clinical experience because I spent all my time as a vet tech, and that'll be good enough because medicine is medicine.
Nope.
All right, they're different, so you can't lean on that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Just go chase it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Welcome to the dark side.
I am your father.
I'm a freshman at university. Do you recommend any books or something that can help me get a higher score on the MCAT and something? So a higher score on the MCAT, right, Rachel? This is your expertise. I think we commonly say that the best MCAT prep is to do well in your undergrad courses.
Yeah, absolutely. The one common misconception with the MCAT is that it's a test you can study for like a final, where if you, especially coming out of high school, right, because the student said they're in their first year of college, you can often get away in high school and in some college courses with participating in class and then cramming a few weeks or a few days before an exam. And the MCAT is totally different. It's going to expect you to retain knowledge from throughout your undergraduate college career. So the first step is get a bunch of A's, and don't just get the A's, actually learn the material. So every time you're slogging through something, don't just think I just need to get an A on this test. Think I need to learn this and remember it because I'm going to use it again in 2.5 years or 3 years on the MCAT. So that's step one. And then for this commenter, I know sometimes when we're in live chat and you're just like trying to get that question in really fast to put it to the top queue. So I am typo queen, but I noticed that you have a fair amount of typos, and I don't know if that means that you're just typing fast or if English is a language you're still learning. But if it is the second, if you're an English language learner, then you want to really, really work on your reading skills, because the MCAT tests your ability to read as much as it tests your science knowledge. And that's not just true for English language learners. It just kind of twigged that thought for me. But remember that college is not all about science knowledge. It's not all about just learning and retaining information. You need to be building your critical reading and critical thinking skills. It will help you in school, it will help you on the MCAT, and it will help you as a doctor. So read, and think deeply about what you're reading. Talk to people about it. take some classes where you have to write essays and participate in discussions. It will do you nothing but good.
Yep.
Yeah. And as our great friend on our YouTube ads reminds us,
the MCAT is hard and the MCAT is important. And to do well on the exam, it matters how you prep and not just.
Oh, Rob Franick.
oh, you know his name. Oh, that's amazing. Now I know
I
that
used to work with that guy.
Yeah, he gives students nightmares. That ad chases them around everywhere.
I'm aware. He's a good guy. That's not a good ad.
Okay. Rob Franick, that's his name?
Yeah. Well, I didn't
right.
even see it. I just recognized the voice.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
He's got a name. All right, I love it. Does transferring from a community college to a private school, NYU, look better than transferring to a state school? I got a scholarship for both schools. Very common question of prestige of university, right? We can remove the transferring from community college part and just say, does going to a prestigious school like NYU look better than going to a state school? No. Right.
No, I think
head shakes all around.
Yeah, I mean, I think the key in terms of where you go to school is where are you going to fit best. You know, that's the key, because ultimately where you fit best, you're going to do better there.
Yep.
And so if NYU is a school that you really feel a great personal fit into, and it works into your, you know, other parts of your life, then that's where you should go. If the state school really is a better fit for you, then go there, because ultimately you want to do well in the courses wherever you go. And so, but you'll do better at a school where you fit, whether it's geographically or there's support networks nearby, such as family or whatever. So, you know, I would pay less attention to the public-private, you know, issue than the fit.
Yeah. It's the same answer for, is this major better or is that major better? Right. It's
that's
exactly which
right.
major are you going to resonate with the most? Which major is going to fill your class schedule the most with classes that you're going to be passionate about and you're going to love to go study and learn and really glow when you talk about them, and obviously get those good grades as well.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any truth? I love questions that start with this. To a high MCAT score improving out-of-state chances? MCAT 522, cumulative GPA 368, science 36, 394 in the last 60 credit hours. So amazing upward trend, right? Dr. Scott Wright, I know there's some potential data that you're privy to with Texas out of state because only 10%. I know we talked about it before. Is the biggest factor really good stats, or is it something else you think?
No, it really is. When it comes down to out-of-state students, in at least in Texas, and I suspect other places in the country, but certainly in Texas, the average GPA for out-of-state versus in-state students at most Texas medical schools is very similar. The differentiator is the MCAT. And the higher your MCAT score, the more attention you're going to get as an out-of-state applicant. That's just simply the way it is. And so I think for Texas schools, I would encourage this guy to really look at his options around the country and not really pay attention to the in-state, out-of-state issue, because with that MCAT score, which by the way is a fantastic MCAT score, you know, great score
and great trends.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think you got a lot going for you, assuming that the other stuff is there, the clinical work, the, you know, volunteering, stuff like that. Assuming that is on par with, you know, kind of everybody else, then I think that definitely that MCAT score is going to get some attention.
And putting a good story together,
absolutely.
Right? Application renovation. If you go watch any of my videos on the premed.tv channel, application renovation season 3, I had lots of 519, 520, 39, 40 students not getting much traction because their application, what they put together in their personal statement, their activity descriptions, secondary essays, and most likely interviews as well, just completely fell apart and didn't wow's the wrong word. Didn't wow the admissions committee, but it just didn't resonate with the admissions committee.
That's a good word.
Yeah. So, and that's where working with Dr. Wright or Verinia, any of the mapped advisors helping you craft your story, or even just picking up my book, at the least, picking up my book about writing a personal statement will help you kind of understand the best way to tell your story.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I lost my place. That's always sad when that happens.
With step 1 becoming pass-fail, will medical school reputation now be a much greater determinant for residency matching? Do you think this change was influenced by the wealthy schools that would benefit?
Wrong
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah. So this is actually a common question that I get to ask program directors through my Specialty Stories podcast. And the answer for right now is the weight is just going to shift to step 2.
Yeah.
Step 2 is still scored. And so the weight will shift to step 2. There may be an expectation that you take step 2 earlier in your journey. Historically, it's been you can take it a little bit later because it doesn't weigh as much in residency applications. Some students take it a little bit earlier, like I did when I was in medical school, because I did a little bit worse on step 1. So I took step 2 a little bit earlier and blew that one out of the water to show residencies, look, I'm not a dum-dum. I just didn't prepare well for step 1. And so with step 2 still being scored, the weight as far as everyone I've talked to is just going to shift to step 2, and reputation isn't going to matter at all.
Right.
Or it'll matter the same as it historically has, which is
yeah. And I think also it's not all about just step 2. I'd really also add that it's your clinical evaluations in medical school, and that in those 3rd year rotations, the schools are really going to be looking at that dean's letter, which really indicates, how you performed in the clinical setting, because that's what a residency is. All in all, the residency wants you to be ready day 1, if at all possible, so that when you walk on their residency on day 1, you're going to be ready to go. You're not going to have to, ramp up for 3 months and really, take some time to get ready. They want you to be ready as quickly as possible. And so they're going to look at those clinical evaluations as well as step 2.
Yeah. All right. How do medical schools view Eagle Scout?
It's funny. I have this year, I probably have 4 or 5 Eagle Scouts.
Yeah.
And y'all are all kind of shaking your heads with that, because, and I think medical schools view it pretty favorably. It's interesting because Eagle Scout is not just the accumulation of merit badges and all that stuff. That's part of it, but it really takes a lot of determination. It takes a lot of effort, discipline, time management, and that last sort of Eagle Scout project that they have to do takes a lot of organizational skills, leadership abilities, and so I think medical schools look at that and noting that it's a very low percentage of scouts that ever reach that level. I think medical schools pay attention to that.
Yeah, I understand the prestige. Like you, I know that system pretty well, and I know how rare and hard it is. I just wasn't familiar with any college students doing it. Like most of the people I know doing it do it sophomore and junior year of high school. So I was shaking my head thinking, don't list things that happen before you graduate.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but yeah, if this person did it in college.
Yeah, well, and even if they did it in high school, this is something that could come up as in a secondary application, or it could come up in a personal statement potentially. So
good point.
Yes, yeah, it may not come into the mix of the activity descriptions, but there are other places in the application where that can come out.
Yeah, good point.
Just don't count on that being the only thing that's going to get you into medical school.
That's right.
Basically.
But it is pretty cool that you did that, and you're a lot tougher than I am.
Yeah, right. Same
I
here.
don't want to go out to New Mexico and hang out by myself for 15 days. That does not sound fun to me. All right.
Can students excel in the pre-med and med school track when having ADHD? All day, every day.
Every day.
All day, every day, they're excelling.
Yep.
The goal of this whole process is to figure out what works best for you,
Mhm.
whether you have ADHD, ADD, autism, whatever.
Mhm.
Students are out there figuring out what works best for them. And that's why one of the things I don't like about Reddit and Student Doctor Network and even Premed Hangout, sometimes our own Facebook group, is that students will write this long essay of like, this is everything that worked for me, and I have a 520 and a 3.9 GPA, and students treat it as gospel of like, well, if it works for that student, it'll work for me. And I don't like that sort of mentality that students take, versus like, I'm going to maybe try that little snippet there and let me try it for a week or two. Oh, that didn't work. And oh yeah, this other thing I saw on YouTube, well, that actually works well. I tried it for a week or two and I could feel my retention was stronger. My attention was better. So it's a constant game of what I call course correction. I haven't talked about that in a while, but course correction is, right, you go from day to day of like evaluating and self-reflection and going, how did I do today? Was I on my phone too much? Well, let me course correct. Let me put my phone somewhere else next time, or put it on do not disturb, or whatever. Did I get the grade that I wanted for my midterm quiz or for my final? If I didn't, how did I prepare? What can I do differently next time? That's course correction every single day, every single week as you go through this process to continually improve as you go.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. A lot of superstars out there who are neurodivergent. It does not have to be a hindrance if you can learn to work with it.
Yep. Would admissions accept an optional letter of recommendation from 3 years ago? Normally, I would believe so, but does the COVID-19 pandemic make these letters of rec acceptable?
Not in my book.
Not in your book,
Yeah.
right? You like updated letters.
Yeah, I
dated the
mean-
year of the cycle.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, you got a letter from 3 years ago. The first thing that's going to pop into my mind is, what, did the letter writer die, or did they, did they not like
Did you have a
anymore?
falling out?
Yeah, I mean, what's up with that?
Yeah.
I would just look at that and have all kinds of question marks, and so yeah, I would say no. Get a new letter from the same letter writer. If you can't, then jettison that and get a different letter writer. But I think 3-year-old letter is just got too many question marks in it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a red flag, I think. I'm kidding.
Well, at least a yellow.
I'm kidding.
I usually
Yeah.
save red for the really big things. But yeah, it raises some questions that you don't want raised.
Absolutely.
All right. So as we continue on, is it possible to still be in the Army Reserve while going to medical school? Good question. I pseudo know this answer because I talk to a lot of Army Reserve people, and really what it comes down to, if you're in the reserves, you have to talk to your commander and get permission to go away, because most likely you're not going to be available to drill. You're 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year. So you need permission to go away to do that. So that's the short answer.
I love this guy's first name, Von Travian.
Von Travian Sims.
That's
Yes.
an awesome name. Von Travian, I like your name.
If that is your name.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
Another career changer question.
I'm currently a nursing major. Would medical schools look at me weird if I switched to pre-med or became a nurse and then took the pre-med prereqs and applied to medical school? Brittany, what do you think?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Especially now, if you're just, you're changing your major. But you have to decide, really think about what you want to do, right? Because it's two very different tracks.
Yep.
Ultimately, you're in the healthcare field and you're helping people, but it is two very different tracks. So if you continue with nursing, know that that's why you want to do it. If you're switching to pre-med, know that know the reasons why you're doing it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I talked to a student last week, I think, who basically had this same question, and they're non-traditional, and they're going the nursing track for their pre-med journey, knowing and understanding they've done their homework, which is great, knowing that a lot of pre-nursing classes like chemistry for nurses and biology for nurses don't satisfy med school prereqs for the schools that still have prereqs. She understood that. Her rationale was, it's something that I can do where I graduate, I can get a job, I can make money for my family because she has a kid, while I'm saving up for medical school applications, MCAT prep, and that kind of stuff. And so there was some logic behind her journey. And I was like, perfect, right? You understand the potential risks in terms of just needing to take some extra classes. You got it. You're good.
Mm-hmm. Well, we haven't seen one of these in a while.
BS in Bio, SMP 3.9 GPA, lots of clinical, volunteer, extracurriculars, but took the MCAT in April and got a 496. Retook in July, got a 499. Used Blueprint. Already applied DO and MD. What are my chances? I love the "what are my chances" threads. Where's my magic 8 ball? Not enough info. Yeah. Nobody can answer that, right?
No.
Nobody has a crystal ball for all of the schools that you applied to on what they're going to weigh in terms of your MCAT and GPA and everything else.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. We don't know how you tell your story. We don't know how much your personal statement resonated, right? We don't know when you applied. I mean, there's just, it's 0 if you didn't apply, but you did apply. So more than 0.
Than 0. Yeah. Right. And even if we said, oh my gosh, this is the best personal statement I've ever read. Oh my gosh, your extracurriculars are phenomenal. And you talked about them really well. And your secondary essays are great. The medical schools may look at it and go, 499, can't take her.
Yep.
We don't know.
Yeah. Difficult to know.
Yeah. I had that with a student a couple of years ago. She was a nurse. funny enough, was a nurse, took the MCAT, 499. Couldn't break that 499 mark. Had decent grades, and she applied and wasn't getting much traction. And so I talked to her on a Tuesday, and the UC Davis conference, which was still in person then, this was 2019, was happening on Saturday. And I said, if you can swing it, come to the conference. I'll introduce you to the deans and directors of admissions that I know that are going to be there tabling. And so she came and I introduced her to people. I introduced her to one specific one that just stands out to me, was a DO school, right? And we know that DO historically, they have lower requirements in terms of stats, although that's shifting as more and more students are getting more competitive with their applications. And she's straight up said, this director of admissions straight up said, my board will not let me look at someone under 500. Period. You're great, but I can't. It just broke my heart.
Yeah.
So,
I think
she ended up. She did end up. I'll interject. She did end up going to the AAMC Minority Fair the next weekend or 2 weeks later. Ended up getting 2 MD interviews, 2 MD acceptances.
Awesome. That's awesome.
So it worked.
Yeah.
What is the most inspirational turnaround story you admitted to medical school? Scott, you have any inspirational stories you remember?
Let me ponder that question. Nothing really sticks out in my mind as in terms of a turnaround story. I mean, we did have a lot of students who, struggled in their first year or two in college and really were able to turn around and show that upward trend and really were able to, pull together an application that really was compelling. There's no specific one. The one that stands out, which I don't know that I'd really call it a turnaround story, but it was a lady who she applied to medical school. She had a family. I think she had 3 kids. She was a single mom. and just she really had to work and show her effort in making it happen. And the year she got in, we enrolled, we admitted her into UT Southwestern. The year she got in, she was 50 years old, and she became the president of her class all 4 years. Stupendous student. Left medical school, went into a pediatrics residency, and is now out practicing medicine, somewhere. And but it was just such a wonderful story. It really does illustrate a lot about resilience, about hard work and discipline, and really showing that you want this to happen, and that you're going to do everything you can to make it happen. And it's that kind of story that I always use as an illustration to students who say, well, I can't do well in class because I work or because I do this, and I'm like, no, you can. It depends on how bad you want it, and how good you are at time management and prioritizing what's important to you.
Yeah, the one that stands out to me is Kane, who was part of National Premed Day last year, I believe. He went to undergrad, got kicked out with like a sub-2 GPA, and just lived his life and was doing stuff that he wasn't super excited about. Had some life-changing experiences, decided he wanted to go to medical school, applied to go to USF because he was living in Florida at the time, and USF wouldn't let him in based on his prior grades. So he started in community college with his son, taking classes with his son. Ended up being able to transfer to USF with his performance at community college. Yeah. Ended up getting into University of Central Florida Medical School. And I just shot him an email to check in on him because I know he was struggling with some match stuff. But yeah,
that's
great,
awesome.
Great story.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. I did have a student last year or 2 years ago who did the same thing, flunked out of college, actually got addicted to some drugs, and ended up in drug rehab, and whole terrible experience. Got his life together, went back to college, extraordinarily 4.0 in biochemistry major, and then 520 MCAT. He's in medical school now. So that's a definite turnaround story where it doesn't matter who you are, what's happened to you. It depends on your motivation and your excitement and your perseverance in all of those situations. That's the key. And medical schools love that kind of turnaround story.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was thinking about Jamie, who was also in National Premed Day from 2020. I think she was on our student panel. And it's been a while since I've talked to her, but I think she told me she dropped out of college 3 times before she enrolled and made it stick. So she had, huge GPA overcoming issues, and, just had to focus on her trend, right? The cumulative was never going to be amazing because of all the times that she dropped out. But I'm trying to remember now. I think she's a 3rd year. And then also awesome. Brian Torres, who is a National Premed Day this year, and he's got an epic story. And I mean, you guys can go watch them talk here on map.tv and hear their stories firsthand. But 100% agree. The things that I always hear in common with those stories is they managed to stay positive. When they had setbacks or obstacles, they didn't internalize it as failure. They just thought, what can I learn from it? And what can I do next? And that's such an important part, to not let the situation get you down, to not let numbers on an exam or numbers on a transcript define you. They believed in themselves, and that's so important, to be able to internally motivate that kind of positivity, because no one's going to give it to you, right? If you're looking anywhere outside of you for that sort of inspiration, you're in the wrong direction, right? You've got to give it to yourself, and that's what I definitely see in common with those folks.
Yep. Yeah, being willing to keep going, try it again. Okay, do it again, not giving up.
Yep. Hope that helps, Heather. Thanks for taking us down memory lane.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
All right.
How lenient are interviewers toward ESL candidates who aren't very eloquent, as English isn't their first language? I've got a couple of interviews and I am freaking out as English is my third language. It says Calvin Klein. I love your underwear. Um, yeah, this is a fear, right? Students, whether English is their second language or maybe they English is a close first, but they have a strong accent based on where they're from. And the answer is it's going to depend on the interviewer and how biased they potentially are towards whatever accent you may have. And hopefully you practice, obviously, and enunciate and all the normal things that you would try to do in normal day-to-day life. My general advice typically when I talk to students like this is if you're communicating well enough that your friends understand you, your teachers understand you, you're going to be fine in an interview. Just relax and be yourself.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
And practice.
Practice. But, and I'm taking you literally here, Calvin, when you say aren't very eloquent, you don't have to be eloquent. Not everybody is eloquent. You just have to be clear, right? So don't worry about your 75-cent words, right? Most of us use nickel and quarter words all the time.
Exactly.
Ryan, what was it you were saying the other day? I think New York Times writes in an 8th or 9th grade level.
Yeah.
So you don't, it's okay to, look at me, I'm stuttering and I've been speaking English my whole life. It's okay to need a moment to find your thoughts. That honestly wasn't planned, guys. I just covered. It's okay to need a moment to take to find your thoughts. It's okay to use a simple word instead of a more complicated word.
Unlike Dr. Gray, who likes to use words like extraordinaire.
Extraordinaire. That's my only big word that I know. I am horrible with my vocabulary.
Gray is not any big words. He calls me out for using them.
Right.
And I'm not ashamed. Like, what does that mean? I don't know that word.
No one should ever be ashamed for not knowing things because having information is,
That's how you learn.
All right. Let's move on. Let me find our next one.
And that goes with personal statements and your essay writing as well. Keep the big words out of there. Do not open the thesaurus to write your essays.
No. Right.
Yeah, which isn't to say that big words are penalized. We're just saying, if you got to go down the thesaurus route to find them, if you're writing and then substituting out, that's probably going to look fake.
Yeah.
But, I'm only saying that because sometimes I get accused of using big words that I don't think are big. So just write the way you think, right? Whatever words you're thinking are the words you should write.
Yep. I got an F in my accounting class for business degree before switching to biology. Can I hide my bad grade from MCAT? Or should I retake a class not related to my biology degree?
They see all.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. Sorry. They
Yeah.
can certainly. Sorry.
Yeah. Walk us through it, Virginia. Rinia. Oh my God.
Oh no.
It's been a while.
The jar. You talk.
No. It's that you can't hide it. Unfortunately, you can't run away from it. Whether or not to retake it, it's your choice. Sure, it'll make your GPA go up a little bit, but if it's not a class that you're going to need in your current major, you might be better off using that time in that, that space in your schedule for something that will benefit you. Maybe a science class that's going to sort of balance things out a little bit. But you can't run away from it, unfortunately. And if you're switching to pre-med, the reality is they're going to be more focused on your other courses.
Yeah. Yeah, there's nothing magical about retaking the same accounting class and getting an A in that to show, look, I'm not bad at accounting, right? Taking another class and getting an A, it's the same. The math works out the same GPA wise. So don't worry about retaking the class not related to biology. Just focus on moving forward, and don't hide grades from MCAT because they are required that you put everything on there, and they have access to clearinghouses, which house all of your data, etc.
Yep.
So
and,
be careful.
I'm at a black ball. Bing! Big red flag.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting. I was looking into this the other day with the blockchain. The blockchain is amazing technology that has the potential to do a lot, right? And right now it's this buzzword of like Bitcoin and all this other stuff. But there are companies out there actively working on moving transcripts and academic records onto the blockchain, because that's public information that can't change and you can't hide from it. And so I can picture a time in the future where we call them wallets on the blockchain, where you have like your own little wallet that is public, and you know your wallet information. It's not like, oh, this is John Smith's wallet, but you know your address, and that you just plug in your address to AMCAS, ACOMAS, TMDSAS, and they automatically see everything that your schooling has put on the blockchain that can't change. So it's really cool technology.
Yep.
And hopefully we'll make verification much faster in the future.
Yeah.
I'm a scribe at my local ED and have obtained just over 200 hours over a course of 3 months. My parents are trying to convince me to quit since I have met the requirements. What should I do? So I would love to ask your parents, what are the requirements that they are speaking of? Because I don't know any.
No, me either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't quit.
Parents, I wonder if their parents are physicians too, or somehow have inside knowledge.
Yeah.
Or are their parents just helicopter parents?
Yeah. Could be.
I was
All of the
thinking they
above.
were on the Chardonnay circuit.
What's the Chardonnay circuit?
Oh, it's you know, like they're at country clubs gossiping about their kids, like bragging to each other.
Got it.
They're like, you know, he should be doing clinical. He should be getting in a lab. Wrong. You know, like,
Yeah.
So I mean, nothing against your parents. I'm sorry. I just, that advice is not good. They may be lovely people.
So the answer is, Brandon, if you enjoy being a scribe, continue doing it because it's a valuable experience. If you don't like being a scribe, go find some other clinical experience to do.
Right.
Agreed.
Yeah, but don't quit just because you got 200 hours.
No.
The big mistake a lot of students make. Freshman year, check. I got my 100 hours of clinical, 100 hours of shadowing. Now I have sophomore, junior, senior year to screw off and study for the MCAT.
Yep. Not good.
Yeah. And let's dig into that a little deeper just to make sure people understand. The idea with clinical is that you're getting patient interaction. You're not proving this to med schools. You are proving to yourself that you want to work with patients for the rest of your life. So first and foremost, for yourself, if you don't enjoy that particular kind of clinical and you want a different clinical, that's great, like Ryan and Scott were saying. But optically, if you do clinical for a little while and then don't do it again, and there's a big gap between when you got some hours and when you go to med school, it could send the message that you didn't really like it at all, in which case, why are you applying to med school? So this is a common misconception. So if you didn't know, and not just for our question asker, but for everybody, now you know, slow and steady and consistent is way better than a big cram.
Yep.
And knowing is half the battle.
Yep.
Indeed.
G.I. Joe.
Dun, dun, dun.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, come on. I bet your kids know.
G.I.
Maybe.
Joe. Yeah.
I mean, I know G.I. Joe, but I don't know that reference.
It was the end of every episode. Talked about
Tagline.
now you know, knowing is half the battle.
Oh, I didn't know that.
For we who watched cartoons in the 80s.
I know.
Saturday morning, the best time of the week.
Yeah.
I wish
I
Saturday
missed
morning
that.
cartoons still existed.
I
Right.
missed that.
How do we write about our, quote, negative experiences with a positive attitude? For example, dealing with an ongoing condition and wanting to pursue medicine because of it. Very common question. All right. What do you think, Bernia?
How has this situation or condition made you stronger? How have you, learned to deal with it, manage it, and how could you take that, those skills, I guess, and, help somebody else going through the same thing or going through a different condition? Those are all ways of spinning it in a more positive way. And not everything's going to be roses. Obviously, if it's a challenging situation, it is what it is. You embrace it. But trying to approach it from a perspective of how has this made me stronger?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I really like that. The other thing that I often like to say around this kind of stuff is talk about your scars, not your open wounds. Now, you mentioned it's an ongoing condition, so I understand you're still dealing with it. But anything you put in your application is fair game in the interview. So if every time you talk about your condition, or maybe not every time, but lots of times when you talk about your condition, you break down in tears, then maybe you don't want it in your application because maybe you don't want to risk crying in the interview. But if you feel like, yeah, even though this is an ongoing thing, I've got some perspective, I've figured out how it makes me stronger, I can talk about it and keep my cool, then yeah, share that story.
That's a good point.
Yep.
All right, well, we've got a few minutes left. Cherry pick a couple more here.
I'm gonna pick one up here because it comes up a bunch, and I think it's a good one. Will an unbalanced MCAT hurt me? I have a 514 but a 125 cars. While I have submitted 25 secondaries in July, I have only one interview thus far. So, common question, Rachel. What do you say to this type of question?
My short answer is no. I mean, a 514 is amazing, so congratulations. Yep. A lower car score can be something that stands out, but 125 is not, egregiously low.
514 with a 121, maybe.
Right. Or if you had a 118, right? If you were at the very bottom of the scale, then someone would worry, someone would notice. But there could be a whole bunch of reasons that you only have one interview so far, and they don't have to be bad. They don't have to be bad reasons. So I wouldn't be sweating yet.
No. Yeah. And congrats, you got one interview. That's awesome.
One interview. That's a lot more than a lot of students have. Right? And it is still very early as we're recording this. It's September 1st. It's still very early in this game. Yeah. So lots of other things that we don't know about. Right. And this is why we even in our map software, we try to focus less on stats. Is your MCAT score is just one small part of your application. What's your GPA? What is your trend? What do your extracurriculars look like? How did you write your personal statement? What did you put for your activity descriptions? How did you do your secondary essays? There are 1,000 reasons for why someone gets an interview or doesn't get an interview. And then the MCAT is one small part of that.
Yep.
While we're talking about interviews, I want to remind everybody that today we have 2 live sessions. So again, it's September 1st for those who are listening to the replay. But you can go to map.com/ACEYourMMI and sign up for the session we have later. That one is closed, so you've got to register to come to it. It's not going to be on YouTube, but it's not too late to join.
Yeah, and that's 4 p.m. Eastern time.
Thank you for clarifying that. Yeah. That's what happens when I write banners on the fly. I forget about my time zones. So yeah.
Come hang out with us.
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
We'll see you again.
Yeah.
Put you in the hot seat.
All right.
All right. For Dr. Ryan Gray, I really benefited from the eShadowing sessions. As I'm Canadian, will you be counting these sessions?
Oh, continuing.
Oh, continuing. I can't count. I can't read either. Yeah, for the foreseeable future, we have people still going. I was just chatting with my team about next week because I have my schedule blocked for Labor Day. But I'm planning on opening it up so we can get an eShadowing guest in there. So yeah, for the foreseeable future, we're gonna be doing it.
Awesome.
Rachel, you want to talk for a second about Mapped? Let's chat about Mapped and the Mapped platform. So if you didn't know, Mapped as the team that you see here, we do one-on-one advising, but the impetus for Mapped, the kind of the brainchild for Mapped was a technology platform that you, the premed, could track all of your courses, your activities, your applications, medical school lists, everything related to being a premed student. We wanted you to be able to track in one place in Mapped. And so that's what Mapped is. We launched last year. Now it's been a year now. We've been in public beta from a year ago. We're not in beta anymore. And students love it. We're getting tons of great feedback that it helps students prepare them for their applications because they have all of their information in one spot. Our idea of Mapped is as soon as you know you're a pre-med student, you should sign up for a free account. Go check it out. If you like it, sign up and use it every day, every week, once a month, whatever it is that fits your needs. Rachel pulled up the demo here. You can see it has nice, pretty graphs showing you GPA trends. Remember, AMCAS, ACOMAS, TMD, all calculate GPAs a little bit differently. So what GPA you see on your transcripts doesn't necessarily equal the GPA that you'll see from the application services. You can track your MCAT scores, all of your practice tests, diagnostics, etc. Tracking all of your prereqs to make sure that you know what prereqs are involved. So there's a custom roadmap too, is one of the newer features that that one feature is in beta, and we have lots of new stuff planned for that in the future. But based on when you tell us you want to start medical school, we'll kind of lay out the whole path for you and let you know what you should be thinking and working on all the way down to celebrating your white coat ceremony.
Woohoo.
Yeah. And one of the newest features we added to Mapped is chat, which is under advising right now. We're going to change it to chat. You can either chat with your school advisor or mentor for free, or you can chat with one of us at a small cost per month or per year and have access to us like doing this, but more private, where it's just you and one of us answering your one of your questions. So it's very easy to invite your school advisor into Mapped, and they can have read-only access to all of your stuff as well. So just a brief look at Mapped. I thought we'd show you and check that out. But that's what I got.
Awesome.
Let's go check it out. Anything else, Rachel? We good to go?
I
had
was
one more question I think you wanted to pull up.
Oh, maybe. I was semi-tasking, so I wanted to say, did we talk about 30 days free?
Yeah, let's do 30 days free.
Okay. All right. So if you want to try out Mapped, it is no credit card, no obligation. We always offer you 14 days of a free trial before you join. But because you're listening to Ask the Dean or watching Ask the Dean, if you enter code 30 days free, so that's 30 days free, there'll be a referral code when you're registering your account. Enter it there, and what that'll do is give you the trial for 30 days. So you have lots of time to use Mapped. It does take a little bit of work to get going. You got to enter your courses. You got to enter your activities. But after you've spent even 20 or 30 minutes giving us some information, we're going to start spitting out those graphs and giving you feedback, and you're going to start to really see that value. And we also have a lot of support systems in place. So once you join, be looking for emails and updates from us so that you can get help using the system.
Yep.
Yeah, I did want
All
to
right.
pick one more question, see if I can find it real quick. It was when should we worry? Yeah, here we go.
When should we worry? I finished all of my secondaries. Now the long winter begins. When should we start to worry if we do not hear back from medical schools?
Thanksgiving.
Yeah. That's been the general rule of thumb. Thanksgiving maybe shifted a little bit with COVID last year, maybe a little bit this year.
Mm-hmm.
But that's general rule of thumb. So we still got some time, people.
Yep. Got a couple months before you, or really 2.5 months before you start worrying too much.
Breathe.
This process is so much like parenting. Always worried. This is your baby.
Yep.
So I understand.
Yeah.
And also, like parenting, the days are long and the years are short.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And the night.
All right, everyone. I can't believe it's September 1st. 2020 is coming to a close. 2021 is coming to a close. Thank you all for joining us here live on Instagram and on YouTube, whatever channel you're watching on. We're going to be here every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern. So thanks for coming. And if you're watching this live and you want to come check out our MMI workshop, link that we posted is not the right one because it says AV your MMI. It should be ACE your MMI. But that is
I'll fix it.
okay. We'll fix that. Come join us for our live workshop this afternoon. Everyone have a wonderful day. We'll see you soon.
Bye
Bye, guys.
bye.
Take care, everyone.